Okay, hi everyone. Again, I'm Michael from Backend Bed team. I work as a backend developer, and I'm also the maintainer of PyTezos library written in Python. Well, tonight I'm going to talk about our delegation auditor service and other things we're working on. So basically what we do is creating products for Tezos end users, right? So I'm going to show you what's going on the other side, right, from the perspective of average Tezos holder. Okay, I hope you find it useful or, well, have some fun. To wrap, this is the latest report. So I'll have little information on my slides. They are just like illustrations of what I'm going to present. So when we talk about blockchain, there is some controversial thing, because in theory we have all access to the data, right? So blockchain is public, everything can read from it. But when it comes to actions, you realize that things aren't that simple, because you have to have enough resources, a bunch of middleware and knowledge of particular software stack, right? So if you're not a developer, it's pretty hard for you to retrieve some information for the blockchain. Here comes blockchain explorers to rescue us, right? So they play a very important role in blockchain data accessibility. They're like windows. In Backend Bed, we go a little bit further and create even simpler data representations in order to make it human readable, right? So to make things simple. And our delegation service is a good example of this. So in the matter of fact, we are working on top of Tezos API. Well, so this is like third on these two slides. I want to show how many abstraction layers are between us and the real blockchain data. So it all started after the mainnet launch in September 18th. We saw that there are some issues that can hold back the community growth, particularly if you're, say, you're average Tezos holder, you have activated your account after the ICO, and you now want to earn some additional income, right? Without go into too much details. In this case, no, much details because, well, frankly speaking, for an average Tezos user, this is quite complicated scheme, right? So your only option is to blindly trust the delegates you chose, right? So the other way is to go through all these docs, right, to understand how the proof of stake works, and then even with all this knowledge, you have to do some regular calculations, right, to check that your numbers converge with numbers that your baker shows you. So we look at all this and decided to make a product for such users, right, to make a dashboard which displays all the payment rewards that were paid and will be paid in the nearest future for a few cycles. So basically what we're trying to do is to match all transactions for a given address with the expected rewards. So internally there's a quite straightforward algorithm that operates on two data sources. One is from Tezos API, and the second one from our predefined settings for some bakers settings. Yeah, that's how it works. And we also launched a Telegram bot that notifies you about every reward that was missed or successfully paid, so we always stay informed. So our two products solve two problems for usual Tezos user, and it worked well. So it seems logical that if you have all the data that we have for each client for a particular baker, so we can conduct a full audit of this baker, right? Like, I don't know, some financial institutions do for their assets. And then we can build a rating system on top of this, right? So the score of a particular baker can be determined based on the history of his payments, like the history of his good faith. And this could be a great criteria of evaluating, because now, frankly speaking, there are very few criteria that can be used. So the main ones are node efficiency, service fee, and then goes all sort of either subjective or irrelevant things. So, and even such things like, well, no, this is some new project. Well, it looks like from it came from 19th or I don't know. So, yeah, yeah, you're right. So, but the main obstacle to make this is enormous variety of payment scheme that baker use. So, just for instance, bakers can pay after 6 cycles. They receive reward. On the next cycle, they can include transaction fee, exclude transaction fee. They can share accusation rewards. They can reimburse missed blocks, and so on and so on. So there are really about, well, we have multiple cases because usually bakers write us when something goes wrong in our interface. So this is the main obstacle, and now we have worked around for this. We provide interface for users where they can tune these settings. Plus, we constantly update our internal predefined settings for all bakers, so to reduce manual work. So our but with all this, we still have some edge cases when it's practically impossible to count all things. So for this, we have a manual interface. When you can match the transaction with a particular payout. So our next logical step is to create an interface for bakers, so they can set all the accounting right as they operate. Right. Next thing, you maybe heard about View Broad Proposal by Critium Labs. It costs, a little resonance recently, and among other things, it was suggested to move reward payments on chain, right? So to reduce this risk of baker default. And a natural question arises: will there be a need of the delegation audit, right? The need of our services, if this will be implemented. And we think that yes, that in spite of this, there will be that need. And the main reason for that is the same that we faced with our dashboard, because there are so many ways to pay delegators that I think it's practically impossible to build a universal solution, and it's even harder to make updates on chain. So I guess that this proposal can find its, of course, can find its users like BakeChain or Kiln Tools did, right? But not for everybody. Well, when we speak about Beerboard proposal and BakeChain, Kiln are the tools for bakeries, one of their goals is to support small bakeries, right? To reduce their costs, because if you're small, you still have to pay for a server, for workers, and all other things. And you really need to automate all these things to reduce your costs. And the other problem that small bakeries are facing is lack of trust, right? Because if you are new and small one, nobody trusts you. Well, if I was a delegator, I'd rather choose a big and old one to delegate, even if I would have to pay 20% of fee. So we decided to propose our own solution to this problem and launched a promo of our insurance services. This works quite simple. So a particular baker pays a security deposit, and in case of default, this deposit is used to pay rewards to all his clients. The great thing about the delegation scheme is this deposit is kept on a wallet that delegated to this particular baker, so his staking balance remains unchanged, and he almost does not lose profits. The insurance coverage can be full or partial. This depends on a particular baker's goals. This idea was, there were quite different thoughts on this, but we have a few preliminary applications, and now we're working on a secure scheme of storing these insurance deposits, right, to reduce third-party risk to us. And in the end, I want to say a few words about our Spinoff project that we are now working on. It's a multi-currency HD wallet and built-in hybrid exchange. It's now in an early alpha. It supports Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Tezos. And the main feature, the name implies that you can create cross-chain transactions using atomic swaps. But the main feature is the matching engine we use to match orders and liquidity that's provided by professional market makers. So you can stay both secure, because you're in full control of your funds, and liquid, because you can exchange your assets at every moment. So we believe that that can solve a problem of small trading volumes in Tezos, because you probably know about Gate.io exchange, right? It's one of the largest bakers, and the problem is that it's not a very active baker. So, for instance, in the last voting, there were they didn't vote for a long time, and so on, so on. And when you're when you keep funds on Gate.io, you of course they share some revenue, but the terms are non-market at all, so you're not in control of your funds. Your rewards are not as big as they can be, and the third, your baker, your baker can be called a responsible baker. So we believe that this can be, well, not an ultimate, but we hope a solution to this problem. So thank you all for hearing. If you have any questions, and just a bonus section regarding my library. Is there anyone who writes smart contracts for Tezos? Well, I have some cool feature for you that I implement in Tezos library. Oh. Whoa. Well, okay, I'll show you later. So just come to me after the report. Well, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please ask.
I have two questions. Once I've noticed that on your website you generate a password for the user. What is the random number generator that you use?
Random number generator?
At a certain point on your slides, I have the impression that you generate a password. You generate a BP password. On the slides up, when you create a new baker, you generate a password.
No. It's just illustrations. It's just
so the password is the user that give it to you.
It's just a screenshot from my bake chain. It's just to like illustration for my boards. Sorry to.
Right. And the second question: Did you think about? Did you experiment about creating a smart contract that kind of implements the given all the baking configurations and baking rewards, having a smart contract that actually implements all this and deploying it on the chain, and then basically say, well, this baker actually used these smart contracts to give all the rewards to the to distribute the rewards. So kind of having a parametric smart contracts that you deploy. And
yeah, I understand the questions. Well, the first thought that we'd love to do this on chain if we can access blockchain data from the Microsoft. Now it's not possible. Well, you probably say about if a particular baker used smart contract to make payment rewards. Yeah, we thought about this. We did some research, but nothing particular. And yeah, we will do it in the future, I believe. Anyone? Okay, thank you so much.